Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of your Metagame Minute, once weekly Chaotic Amateurs follow-up podcast, where we talk about the events of the last episode of Chaotic Amateurs, your favorite D&D 5e play podcast. Let's go. Oh, Alex has his hand up. Oh
yeah,
my God, this is unorthodox.
I want to start off this Metagame Minute with just
we screwed up, guys.
Just classic D&D, classic DM stuff. I don't have any notes about them having markings on them. I didn't think about that until one of you asked about it. And then I'm like, yeah, of course they would have odd markings on it. And of course it would be mud because they were in the mud and they would have this stuff. And so this is what D&D is you take a innocuous question like that, and we have turned it into lore about the surrounding wastes. We have turned it into what creatures are around there. We have made a spell today that allows you to sense the presence of circlets, because obviously that's what they were doing with those runes. It is stuff that just comes out of the gameplay.
That's awesome.
This is how we
world
build.
And I don't know about anybody else, but me personally, when I got the idea for the aura tattoos, I was thinking of the bottle we found at the tower, but then I was thinking aura. And then I had all these visions of us just end gaming this at our current level, just decked out in full body aura tattoos, just hurling fireballs out of our hands nonstop, just Iron Man suits of aura tattoos, basically.
That's awesome.
I don't know why I took it to the extreme.
Riff can't get tattoos.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll carry you on our backs because we'll have flying spells imbued into our bodies.
Yeah, you can hold on to the end of my chain weapon and I'll swing it and I'll launch you into battle.
Oh my God, you'll have this chain weapon and you'll spin it around, and then Riff will spin around with her nunchucks.
Riff will ride the end of my chain weapon blade like a surfboard into the heads of our enemies.
It kind of reminds me of that scene in Infinity War when Rocket was picked up by Bucky with his metal arm and and he's just blasting with his machine gun.
Oh
yeah, dude, so sick, so awesome. We're basically entering into our own Infinity War, apparently, with our tattoos and magic stuff. Anyway, getting ahead of myself. Regular horn order. Ball. What is Ball thinking about these markings? What did you make of those? What did you make of this battle that we had with the Scion? I was so intrigued by the Scion, but it was kind of such a fleeting thing.
Yeah, no, that was just fun, classic D&D. That was just, I got to cast enlarge on myself and, beat up some people.
He's Ant-Man.
Yeah, all of the stuff out in the woods was really interesting. I love putting my mind into Ball's mind and his upbringing of where he's from, and then being with all of you people who don't have the same respect for dead things and you guys willingness to break apart Warforged and chop off people's heads and stuff. I really love thinking about Ball's reaction to those kinds of things.
I was thinking about that this episode, and I just realized that Ball is such a city boy.
He is.
He grew up in the city. He didn't have to do any of this where Scoria's got these native survival skills, and it's just these two worlds that I never quite saw that contrast.
Until
this
I'm gonna make it my goal to teach you how to skin and gut.
The vegetarian
live off the land.
That could be pretty useful for an artificer, though.
And I'll teach you how to write really beautiful poetry or something. I don't know.
Awesome back tattoos.
Yeah.
Maybe you could actually put some magic into his runes for real, and not just this fake rune.
Hey,
but this astrology, basically, or whatever it is.
You died. There's something on the other side. I think that was my favorite part, though, was just putting myself into Ball's shoes and thinking about the way the group thinks, and then the way Ball would think would be entirely different. They're from different sets in the world. That was the fun part for me.
Well, it's funny because in a way too, I kind of think Riff obviously has some formal education, but Riff only just turned 12 years old. You are the educated one in our group, which is kind of an interesting thing because we don't necessarily think about education or anything like that in D&D, but in a way, it kind of factors in. Scory has
it does change your character and the way they would interact with the world for sure.
Right. Exactly. So it's kind of an interesting take, and I like to see that come through because it's something that's not necessarily like hit on often in D&D. So I think that's what's fun about the Artificer.
That's just what's awesome about this metagame minute is we get to talk about that weird shit that you would never really discuss otherwise.
Yeah, for sure. Let's go ahead and hit Mr. Selbrun, Scory, Caleb.
Yes, sir.
What up?
Not much, man. How about you?
So I can't help but think about this like hyena spirit as like some sort of like animus or something.
Yeah,
you know, like it's really evocative and makes me think, and I can totally see why Scory is like drawn to it. But like, what do you make of it?
It's really intriguing. Because for Scory's whole life, he's dealt with nature and animals and things like that, but in communion. So to see something so violently ripped apart and then take it advantage of that way, possibly while it was alive, you know, not really giving honor to the animal, obviously not using all of it.
Right.
His experience, anytime you do any sort of animal magic, whether you're talking with animals or turning into animals or whatever, it's always in a very respectful way. And this seems like it was very blasphemous.
Right.
And so that's kind of piqued his interest. So he's trying to take what he can from this animal that was left, and we'll see kind of what he tries to figure out about everything.
What was I the only one that thought like the way that the Alex described like sort of the animal being split or whatever, the way that the decay and the bones, like I couldn't help but envision like some sort of magical effect that set up like an area of effect, like a sphere or something like that just and the hyena
like,
just happened to be there,
like a curtain.
Yeah,
and
like,
everything from their back got
right. Which like doesn't necessarily stand to reason because the humans looked fine, but
yeah,
it was just so interesting to me that it was split in half.
I hadn't thought of that, but it did catch my attention that it seemed like parts of it were stripped and parts of it weren't.
Right.
And so, you know, I'm gonna.
What are you gonna do with the skin?
Well, I'm wearing it.
He's copying Riff.
Copying Duroc.
Or just doing what he does, because he already wears leather hides, so it's just more of the same. But yeah, he's definitely wearing that jackal head, and he's gonna be snagging some of those bones to make some tattoo tools. So,
what did Scory think of Zephyrus's sweet hyena facts?
I don't know. Pretty useless for the scenario.
Tried to unsubscribe.
But like you didn't think
like,
that like
knowing
that there
that
was like a vestigial pseudo penis was like useful in any sort of way, or like
no, I couldn't have kicked it, so it didn't really.
Okay, well maybe in the future it'll come in handy.
Probably not, but
okay,
you know, whatever.
Moving on. Yeah, Zephyrus was excited to talk about hyenas, clearly. He's excited about the prospect of these tattoos. I was
got to shoot some bobos.
I did get to shoot some bobos, dude. It was so cool. It felt like to sit in battle and like stand so far away. I don't know why that's something that never crossed my mind, because even before with my last warlock subclass, I could link with somebody and cast my spells as though from them. So like my Eldritch Blast normally has a range of 120 feet, but if you factor in the way that my link worked before through Eben, it could have had a range of 220 feet.
Oh,
and I died in melee combat. Like, how stupid. And so I was thinking this time, I was like, oh man, I'm just going to like use my abilities. I'm going to escape. And then I'm just going to use all of my range. And all of my spells are like such long range. Like, I don't know why I never noticed this. Like, I'm used to seeing spells like, 30 feet. The Eldritch Blast is 120 feet. Fucking Hex is 90 feet.
The problem is you don't always have the luxury of space.
No, but I have abilities to escape. You know what I mean? Like even as Zephyrus, I could puff into a cloud of gas and escape. But I didn't. Anyway, the point being is that I've been feeling very useful in combat these past few sessions, and I'm excited for it.
Point being, I finally read my character sheet and figured out what the fuck I can do.
You all motherfuckers can go back and listen to me read my character sheet live on every episode of Chaotic Amateurs before, and I still died in melee combat.
To be fair, I cut it out a lot.
Well, it's just funny. I think like looking at the map for some reason, because I've been running some games using Roll20 myself, and it's like, oh, like thinking about it just much more tactically. Like before, I was thinking like, oh, I got to be close to people in case I got to help and do this or that or the other. Like, no, I just back up. I'm gonna shoot them. Like that's what I do. And especially now that I can hit a little harder with my Eldritch Blast. Like my Eldritch Blast is like, why would I cast any other spell right now? But anyway, Riff. We're going past 10 minutes, just so y'all know. But Riff, you had some cool stuff going on, and I didn't get to see too much of what was going on with you in the fight because I was so focused on it myself. But you know, what is Riff thinking with? You had the circlet, which I thought was an interesting, intense moment, and Zephyrus was like naturally inclined to sort of like speak up about that. But we've had our moments in the past where I think Zephyrus just decided to keep that, you know, to himself and not worry about it too much. Like what were you thinking with the circlet? What are you thinking about like these spirits and these markings and things like that?
I mean, I don't really know much about the spirit or the markings, and so I don't care. At this point, I think it's interesting, like what happened with Mr. Wolf, and it's obviously it's like some sort of, you know, trigger for these folks, and I think it might be useful, obviously, like later on, if we go into, you know, the tower or an area, and you know, as far as there's no like ill effects, we put that sort of thing like on Mr. Ball or on Mr. Wolf again, and see kind of like a spidey sense the area, be like, you know, besides the circlet that I have in my bag, are you sensing anything else? I think the idea of collecting them for some reason is interesting. Maybe that'll do something. I was very excited that like I got the circlet off his head so easily this time, because I've been sort of annoyed about that since like, you know, last season. And she definitely doesn't want to give it over to anybody else right now. She feels weird about that. She doesn't want to give it to Mr. Ball. She doesn't want to, because like the last time it's to her, like he had his chance, he put it on, and then he took it off, and then we had to fight all these guys. She killed she killed two of them. She killed the one with the circlet, and then she killed the final guy. And even though she was like hid and I don't know, it felt pretty good. And I used a couple of elements of her that I've never used before, with like the expeditious retreat stuff and the I forgot that I had shield. So, and that's a reaction. So like that'll bump my AC up to like 19. I was gonna, you know, hopefully use that. But she's more interested, you know, she's writing in her journal at night and that sort of stuff. You know, she talks about all the stuff for the day, and she would have like made notes of like, you know, of the glyph or whatever, or the stuff that we put on Mr. Wolf's back. And she's very excited and wants to like get to the end of the adventure. Basically, she's like, I want to get to the tower. I want to get to the stuff. Like I want to figure it out. And she's actually very interested. That's why she had the conversation with Ball as well about the that's why she wanted to like take one of them, because she was like, oh well, what if this guy is different? But then Mr. Ball was like, I don't want him to have too much information. And she's like, fair enough. You know, but she's very intrigued by everything. She's kind of like on a sugar rush. She's got sensory overload. So much cool new stuff just happened, and she's journaling about it and trying to figure it out.
One thing I wanted to ask you about, because you mentioned that Riff can't get tattoos, but if I'm not mistaken, I thought in season 1 that she had like some sort of like spectral or like magical tattoos or something that, like lit up. Like,
that's why she can't get normal tattoos, because like how she levels up,
like interrupt it.
Yeah, she has to carve like basically the meridians, and she carves like runes on herself in order to like level up, you know, on the character sheet or whatever. And it'll interrupt her flow if she gets like, you know, mage life on her lower back or something.
And when you say meridians, you mean like an acupuncture map type thing? Like
So like, I mean, the easier way to think about it is just like the movie version of Airbender, where there's like a lot more like fine lines rather than just And it basically, like when she does magic stuff, you kind of see it like almost like it's venom or poison, or you kind of see it like those black lines, and it's not lighting up, it's sucking her essence into the shadow realm.
Dope. Wolf, you got to eviscerate a Warforged in front of Mr. Ball by taking off his back plate. I thought it was pretty brave of you to get the tattoo when none of us were sort of willing to.
And took out like 3 guys in one turn.
That was sick.
I did kill 3 Warforged in one turn.
It made me think. Sick. It made me think what we could do if ever Wolf was hasted. Like,
oh yeah,
just
no kidding.
wreck people.
I think I was standing next to him when he did that, and if there is any sort of oil or anything that Warforged have, it's splattered all over me. I'm sure of it.
You have psychic oil all over you right now. But yeah, gross. So that had to have felt good to do what Wolf does best, especially after like a poor roll at the beginning. But what else is Wolf thinking about that fight, about the Scion in particular, and maybe about the spell that was cast on you with the tattoo?
Well, with the Scion, I thought it was Wolf just thought it was pretty much like the other one that we had encountered, like the ones we had encountered before. But with the whole kind of hyena aspect and like with the them kind of acting differently, that kind of piqued Wolf's interest because he'd fought so many of these before and he'd seen circlets before. Yeah. But this kind of new thing was like, well, that's I've never seen that. And so I think that's why he was, inspecting them a little closer, and he was like, is there something off, or like what's different about these? And that's when he was like looking for like markings or like runes. And as far as putting it on himself, he figured like if we all, and Ball had mentioned it and he brought up a great point. He was like, well, I tried the circlet on, right, and we all were fine with that. So I was like, well, if he's gonna take a risk, I'll take a risk.
Yeah.
And so and besides, like in D&D, like as a player, like yeah, let's do that thing, right? Yeah. Because it's like, sure, it might blow up in our faces, or it might be something really cool. I mean, I would rather, it's like improv, just yes and just let's just do it, Mm-hmm. So unless it's a floating rock, that's so dumb.
Yeah, floating rocks.
How would we ever do that?
Yeah, I'm definitely the same way. I just like if there's a reason my character would do this, I want to find a way to do it.
Oh right? Yeah, for
just
sure.
To find out.
Well, that's the one thing I miss most about Drock is like how often Drock was just like, yep. Like Zephyrus is a little bit more reserved in that way, so it's hard for me to find those moments. But
something funny on the Chaotic Amateurs Instagram account, I put up a poll in our stories. Based off of that picture of you find this door chiseled out of your basement or whatever, would you open it or leave it closed? And out of the responses that I've gotten, Alex is the only one that responded. You said to open it, right?
No, I said cover it over.
Oh, you said cover it. You were the only one that said,
I was the only one that said
to cover it up. Yeah.
Cover it up. This looks like it's bad.
Yeah, he knows what he would put behind it.
They put a Rex in front of it.
He knows something.
He put a rock with pink crystals inside of it that does nothing. Yeah. That's what he did.
We'll get somebody else to go crazy over it.
We are going to find that those pink crystal rocks in our dungeon are the key to this whole thing.
Probably.
You all wait and see. It's going to be our Infinity Stone that kicks off our end game or whatever.
Does Mr. Wolf feel different about now having like sort of gone to like a different plane of existence? Like with those runes and stuff? Like,
yeah, I mean, a little bit. I mean, getting that kind of like that funny vision. I don't think he really like teleported somewhere else. He just kind of got this weird kind of sense and just this kind of, just an odd feeling.
It was like Neo at the end of the Matrix.
Has Wolf ever done drugs before?
Yeah. You done any psilocybin?
He's done my pipe.
Well,
definitely has drugs.
Yeah, he's probably hit that pipe.
Since we're going over, I wanted to talk about the vision or the sensation of something like off in the ocean and the wind and stuff.
That was a cool description.
Like
the sound of a seashell or whatever. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, that was something I really wanted to explore more. I feel like there's like another mage somewhere that's still trying to tap into the power.
Yeah.
Right.
And, get the Warforged back on their side. I really want to know what that is.
I think it's the tower we're going to.
In the back of my mind.
It made me really think about my solo episode, which happened with like this like big storm like circling around me. And when I was like putting together like sound and music for it, I was constantly thinking about that like howling in the background and stuff, which isn't quite the same. But it like when he mentioned the shell to the ear, like that was one thing I was thinking of constantly when I was doing my solo episode. don't know if they're related or if it's just like the sound of like that magical cosmic background radiation or whatever. But
Yeah, I honestly think Riff thinks it's the tower that we're going to, which is why we should go there. Like,
It's like a
let's
beacon.
get there already. It's like we're
Yeah.
gonna get there, and hopefully it's on the coast. And I'm proven right, and I sound like a genius.
Yeah.
But it's like I think I think you're right. There's a crazy crazy wizard or mage rather that's like still kind of holding on, and we're gonna end up
Yeah.
probably
and it could
fighting him.
totally tie in if this tower has anything to do with the tower that brought me back from the plane that I was on, where there's a wizard guy and stuff. So anyway, yeah. we're
Oh
all gonna sound
wow,
like
that's really
geniuses.
tying in now. Holy crap.
Dude,
Oh.
we're writing Alex's story for him.
Yeah,
Thank
dude, that's
you.
why he loves these metagame minutes.
Yeah.
He's like, I just figured out next week's adventure.
So that's where that is.
Look, if I get a chance to rescue Cantor or Crantor or whatever, like, dude, that makes me feel so good because I feel so guilty for leaving him behind. So
Yeah.
all right, guys, that's been our metagame minute. Check this out. Look, time dilation. Yeah, we made it in 10 minutes and less, baby. That has been Metagame Minute, your free weekly Chaotic Amateurs follow-up podcast, available Thursday wherever you get your podcast. Come back Monday and figure out what we do next. Grab your sword and keep on adventuring.
Bye.